everybody, it is spring. Here in the UK, people are getting vaccinated like hotcakes, or whatever metaphor you want to use. And most importantly, it is, once again, World Premiere Wednesday, part of London Sinfonietta's epic series of lockdown live events brought to you lot at home by the ensemble's world-class performers. Now, very excitingly today, as you can see, we are in an actual physical venue. And not just with the Zoom boxes around us. We're here in the beautiful Hall 1 at King's Place in London, headquarters of London Sinfonietta. And you are about to be treated to the first performance of two absolutely beautiful pieces of music written by Matthew Kaner, a composer who has had a long association with London Sinfonietta, and performed by one of the most distinguished clarinetists around, Mark Vanderweal, who is long-term principal clarinetist of London Sinfonietta. Matthew and Mark, I've just realised we have another apostolic duo. The last episode we had was Luke and John, so I think today we have the full Gospel World Premiere Wednesday hat trick. Anyway, so both Matthew and Mark, they're going to be talking to you lot about the music in just a mo. But first of all, if you haven't clocked it, there is a live chat window, and you are warmly invited to type in your comments and questions, preferably relevant and constructive, and there will be a little moment for Q&A after the performance when I'll do my best to field any questions you have for our wonderful performer and composer today with the fabulous phone of fabulousness. Let's hope it works. As always, London Sinfonietta is super grateful to the Arts Council for its continuing invaluable investment in the ensemble and to the Trust's sponsors and individuals who support its work. And huge thanks in particular to Mark Thomas for his kind support of Matthew's new work today. Now, while live concert giving is still pretty much up in the air, the ensemble's events are being presented online for free so that as many of you lot as possible can experience this wonderful new music, and work opportunities can continue to be offered to our amazing players and composers during this bonkers time. Now, in order to do that, the ensemble is seeking support and asks that if you're enjoying the live streams, please do consider donating at whatever level you can afford. It might be the price of a skinny soya latte, lunchtime concert ticket, or perhaps a penthouse apartment on Park Lane. All would be gratefully received. Last bit of pre-show admin. If you haven't already, share the love, hit a like, hit a subscribe. And to find out how to donate, do pop along to londonsinfonietta.org.uk. There is a lot of very cool stuff up on the website, podcasts, interviews, videos, and info on how you can get involved in the life of the ensemble. Okay, well, a warm welcome to Matthew Kaner and Mark Vanderweal. Welcome.
Thank you.
So, Matthew, here you are. First time I've seen you in a very, very long time. And one excellent thing that has come out of this bizarre time for you is, in fact, a new baby.
Yes, I'm a very happy dad. Yeah, what a strange and weird time, but yeah, very exciting to be a father.
I mean, under any normal circumstances, the combination of composing and fatherhood isn't ideal, but I hope you're juggling that okay.
Yeah, you just get used to, writing with very little sleep and just see what happens.
Fantastic. Well, many congratulations.
Thank you.
Now,
Yeah.
Mark, when did you start playing with the ensemble? You've been a backbone of Sinfonietta, haven't you, for a long time?
Oh, what a naughty question to start with, Zoe. I've been a member since 2001 of the Sinfonietta, but was working with them for a few years before that.
And you will have, not just with Sinfonietta, but over many years playing all kinds of rep, you will have given how many premieres? What do you think? Hundreds?
Yes, certainly in the hundreds, yes.
Yeah, another one to add to the roster today. Now, before we hear Mark play this absolutely beautiful piece of music, Matthew, can you tell us something about the piece? It's in two movements, Swift and Kestrel. How did it come about?
That's right. Well, I think like many people during lockdown, I spend a lot of time outdoors. I live in Hackney and we have the wonderful marshes. And I don't know if it was just the low level of traffic or something, but I became a lot more aware of the birds in my garden and around. And I had also written a little piece for basset clarinet before that was inspired by this bird called the long-crowned crane. And so I just thought, oh, maybe this is an opportunity to see if I can capture some of the fascination I have with these beautiful birds, and write 2 more pieces. So we have the swift and the kestrel. And they just sort of just happened, out of that.
Fantastic. I think we all agreed that we'd really like to hear this music first before we chat about it. So, Mark, it's over to you, and this is the first performance of the Swift, followed straight away by the Kestrel by Matthew Kaner. The swift and followed on in one fell swoop, if you'll pardon the expression, which I nicked off Mark earlier, by a second movement, the Kestrel, in that virtuoso performance by Mark Vanderweal, and this beautiful music by Matthew Kane, and many congratulations both. Mark, wow, you make us forget that this is actually really pretty tricky music. It is so highly characterized. There's so much drama in this music. Can you tell us a little bit about this storytelling? What's going on in the Kestrel?
Well, it's interesting that you're asking me first.
Well,
because
both, the floor is open.
because the piece arrived. Now, how to start to learn a piece when you just see 11 pages of pretty daunting and busy notes? Where to start? No recording. You just have to start. As Anthony Pay just said, learning to play it isn't a bad place to begin. So one has to look at the piece as music and also start to play it technically and then gradually understand it. And the idea of these birds with the extended range of the basset clarinet going right down to written bottom C is really appropriate for the way both of these birds, in their very different manners, swoop. So. I mean, that gives such a wonderful idea of this swift coming down where you could almost catch it and then disappearing up to where it can hardly be seen. So it really does capture the idea of these birds. The Kestrel, now, I mean, I'm no expert on birds, but I did look up that a Kestrel is almost twice the size of a swift, and appropriately enough, your Kestrel is more than twice as long and certainly a lot more difficult than the swift. The story of the Kestrel, if I can get my music in the right order, took me a little bit longer to find. I didn't immediately ring up Matt or have a Zoom call and say, what did you mean by this, what did you mean by that? I mean, my experience is better to really learn the piece and try and get under the skin of the piece, inside the piece. Then maybe have a conversation about the questions. Otherwise, I wouldn't have asked the right question. But the way Matt has written, you know, this idea that the Kestrel, which can stay absolutely motionless so that its eyes are pinned from a very long way up on its prey, and it then can swoop right down, you know, like as the swift did, but then it starts to become frisky and gets more and more worked up. And it's becoming quite an active bird. Then there's some very different music. I think I suggested when we talked earlier on, Matt, that it's sort of slightly pantomime villain type. Which I thought was not very Kestrel-like, and I think I correctly guessed it was some other animal. Is that
yeah,
right?
Absolutely, yeah, like a lizard or something, I guess, yeah.
Yeah, so that's the thing that the Kestrel has got in its sights. And each time that music came, the Kestrel becomes more and more active and is really attacking. until it finally, I think, gets the thing in its jaws. And just imagine, oh, God, gotcha. But the thing that I think is really beautiful, Matt, about this piece, is that when the Kestrel becomes still again, I mean, I've written in my music several instructions for myself, like sadly, stillly, human emotions.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that we start to practically think like the Kestrel ourselves. And so at the end, it's as though you don't want it to go somehow.
Yeah.
I think this is a really interesting point, that we have very human response to this metaphor of space. I mean, what more moving evocation could you have during lockdown
Yeah.
of infinite space and flight and escape than these birds? When you were writing this, musically, the musical material, this kind of idea of suspension is something that I've seen in your music before. Did you start off with really thinking ornithologically, or did the music dictate that, or do they two go together?
They're sort of wrapped up together, and
Yeah.
it's hard to unpick, but
Yeah. There's a suspension in time with the swift, certainly, isn't it? That's a bird that can stay airborne
for days, actually, yeah. I mean, it only kind of stops to roost, and that's it, and does everything. It eats and sleeps in flight, and is just in kind of perpetual motion. But yeah, I mean, it's been such a strange time. It's hard to unpick everything that was happening in my head, but yeah, certainly the longing for being outside and just spaciousness and that experience was on my mind a lot. And I suppose, I mean, maybe there was even some envy with which I looked at these birds in my garden and watched these videos and thought, wouldn't that just be wonderful to get out? And I mean, one of my pastimes is walking. And, I spent a lot of time on the mountains in Scotland. And I think I was just missing that, especially during the summer, and we've all been cooped up and desperate for some air.
The rumour has it that you were going to write a set of bird-related... Are we going to have any more? Because
Yeah, I think so.
Absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to. And it's just such a fabulous instrument. I was so happy to be able to write for it again. And I've talked to other clarinetist friends and said, why didn't this become the normal clarinet? Because many of the other clarinets, the bass and so on, have this extended lower range, but not the soprano A clarinet. But as Mark is about to show you, I think, it's bloody heavy. And
So, Mark, by the
Needs a
way,
sling.
I know that there are a lot of you watching right now who are Mark's clarinet fans from all over the world. But for those of us who don't know so much about clarinets, Mark, would you mind just telling us a little bit about the basset clarinet?
Very quickly, the basset clarinet, which is, it's a normal clarinet in A until there. But those extra 4 semitones, which were added at Mozart's time by Mozart's clarinetist Anton Stadler, the instrument maker was called Lotz, I believe, and Stadler loved the low notes of the clarinet and extended them, and it meant that Mozart found just the right voice for his clarinet concerto in this basset clarinet, because that extra dimension which is an instrumental equivalent of a dramatic soprano voice. In other words, a full soprano, but with a really strong chest voice. And Mozart loved that, and he just found the right instrument in the concerto. It really went out of fashion, I suppose, because first of all, the extra weight makes it very heavy, and you also have some quite complex keys down here. Now, Matthew, I don't know how closely you can see this. Matthew wrote, they're quite big jumps. I had to sort of sneak a way of doing those. And we did have a discussion. I said to Matt earlier, I would have said, that's really so hard, would you please change those notes? The trouble is, I'd got to know the piece well enough by then that they were undoubtedly the right notes. So I just had to learn to play.
It's always annoying when that happens, right?
Yes. So the basset, this instrument, really went out of fashion. Also, the sheer weight of it is a problem. That it does probably cause more finger slips than one would expect on a normal on a normal instrument if one has a little bit of bad luck occasionally. So it went out of fashion. It was brought into fashion again in the 1960s, 1970s, pioneered by the clarinetist Alan Hacker, who not only played the Mozart on it, but started commissioning composers. Sir Harrison Birtwistle was one. And a composer clarinetist of today, you mentioned him earlier on, Matt, Mark Simpson, who plays this very instrument, has been really marvellous at expanding that repertoire with all sorts of different pieces. So it has this wonderful extra range, but I suppose it means that there will be a number of clarinet players, probably particularly young players, who wouldn't be able to play it because they don't have the instrument. That's the disadvantage.
Yeah.
So, Mark, I think you've given a lecture on this online. Is that right? So, if you're interested,
yeah, there is a. I have done a little YouTube talk on the basset clarinet, which we did for Classic FM. That's still up on YouTube.
So if you're interested, now I think I should get to see what all you lot at home have been writing in. Katie Birkwood, wonderful pieces and performances. A question for Mark. Are there, and this is a big question, are there particular delights, particular difficulties in playing the basset clarinet compared to other varieties of clarinet? You've partly answered that.
We have partly answered that. Particular delights. There's a little bit in the Swift that I'll find here. I mean, that's such a fruity, chocolatey low note. That's wonderful. That's a delight. But when the same note comes in that sort of finger combination, that's not so much a delight to play, but
That sounds pretty
it's
good.
great
Yeah.
music.
I think what's amazing about this is that because of the drama of the storytelling, we don't think about the virtuosity. And I think that's the mark of a very good performance and good music as well. You know, this piece wasn't about the technical difficulty, even though it is. I mean, it is virtuoso, a lot of it. And how did you come to know this instrument? Because this feels like a very, very clarinet sound. I can really hear that you've heard this colour in your head. It's very much for this instrument.
Yeah, well, so as I said, there is another piece, the Red Crown Crane,
Yeah.
which was written for Mark Simpson, that Mark mentioned. So I guess I'd had a taste of it then, and I just completely fell in love with it. And I think particularly as a composer, it can be daunting writing for solo instrument, because you need so much space to create the kind of fullness of sound and texture that feels kind of complete and convincing in its own right. And when I'd written for the basset before, I just realised that extended range just gives you a kind of whole world that you can inhabit. And I think, you know, particularly with these birds swooping around, there's just, I don't know, it just seemed to make sense to me.
Do you find that in writing for solo instrument, there's an added problem you have as a composer to make a clarity with the architecture? So, you know, with orchestration, with bigger forces, that's going to, you're helped, in other words, by textures. But here, it's just you and it. I mean, it seems to be so clearly structured and shaped.
Yes, it's absolutely true. I mean, it was the hardest thing about the piece. And I mean, if you saw my sketches, it was all in the wrong order to begin with, and chunks of material here, and then I realised, I need a bit more of this, and it's just so much kind of planning in order to create a kind of robust shape that you think people will be able to understand. That's probably the hardest thing about writing solo pieces, I think.
Do you think also you're a very harmony-based composer, I always think, and so there are these, but there's a very particular kind of tone world, a tonality that I can hear that's shot through this piece, which is all completely your own. Before you start, do you have that colour? Or again, do you find that the two follow each other as you're writing? Slightly ambiguous question.
No, yeah, I know exactly what you mean. I'm not sure I know what the answer is, but sometimes I look back at my pieces and I think, oh, that piece is kind of dark red, and that piece is blue. So maybe there is something of that, and but when I'm writing, it's more of a mood or something like that. And I guess the way I think about my harmony is normally just to do with intervals and which intervals are contained in the chords. And for me, they have a certain flavour or quality. Difficult to articulate, but...
one of the wonderful things about the fluidity of the instrument is that you can describe harmonic patterns in a way that is, you can describe something in a couple of seconds, which is really chordal.
Well, that's because Matt's done his job.
That's true. It's not always the case with every piece. I'm very much reminded, by the way, obviously this is totally different music, but it makes me think of, Lark Ascending territory. Not that this is, but this is a 21st century lockdown. There is something about that English quality. It's in the DNA somewhere. Is that a terrible thing to say?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
Just the kind of pastoral, sort of free-flowing quality. Yeah.
It's definitely got the red in tooth and claw, though, hasn't it?
That's true. Yeah.
Can you just show us? Sorry, this is for me because I just love the sound of it so much. But there is the red in tooth and claw. There is the overblow moment. There is this contrast between these beautiful ascending sounds. Just give us a bit of an overblow. I do love that sound. That was a very, very good example just there.
That was the best fingering I could find as close to the note that you wanted that had something.
Great.
So if any clarinetist picked that up, you can transfer the funds in the bank.
So, Mark, you'll like to hear this. We've got a message here now from Nikki. Not a question, but just to send love and greetings from your Dutch family.
Oh, thank you very much.
And thank you for writing in. And we were talking about the pronunciation of your surname, Vanderweal, which could also be...
Which could also be Vanderweal if you're in Amsterdam. But my father was from Brabant, so Vanderweal it is.
Fantastic. And we also have a comment from John Osborne. Thank you for another opportunity to hear some superb music. Thank you, John Osborne in Hull. And you've said that you're missing our live concerts. Yes, we all are. And you're going to keep checking the website and the media. And when tickets are available for concerts in London, you're going to book some. Yes, we all are. Keep your eye on the website. We're hoping, all of us. Frances Bryant is saying that she's really, really enjoying the performance, and the low register of the basset clarinet is glorious. So there you are. This feels to me like it's actually going to be, it is definitely a big addition or an important addition to the rep. I mean, your students are now going to have to negotiate this, I guess, Mark?
They're going to have to negotiate various things, not least who will have custody of the Royal Academy of Music basset clarinet in order to play it on.
So Matthew, just last couple of questions. So this is all obviously a very up in the air kind of question, but we were talking just before the show about this business of being put on pause as a composer, because there's a natural progression in the works that you write. You're inhabiting particular kind of spaces. But you were saying one thing that has come out of this time is the idea that actually, okay, writing for chamber music forces, not such a bad thing. So if your huge orchestral and choral piece can't have its premiere right now, are you thinking in terms of chamber music at the moment?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I found it quite hard to find time to write chamber music over the last few years, because I guess you tend to get most occupied with contacting the big ensembles, or they contact you, and you put them in your diary as the big things that you've got to do. But fostering those relationships with individual musicians is so important, and you're much more likely to get many more performances of chamber pieces because they're just so much easier to put on. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this year, a few more chamber commissions which will come up. If you keep in touch or go to my website, I'll put things up there as they appear.
Yeah, so keep an eye on that, because it's always very exciting when a new piece of yours arrives. And Mark, last question. So, how is it performing in an actual space again? Is this just glorious?
Well, it's not only wonderful performing in an actual space again, it's wonderful playing in King's Place Hall 1, which is the most wonderful acoustic. We were saying earlier, I remember playing some notes in here when it was half built. We were all in hard hats, weren't we? And just absolutely beautiful, and all the wood. Well, I mean, there is a great extent of wood behind the camera out there, all from the same tree.
Oh,
wow,
how
I didn't know that.
fantastic.
Amazing. Yeah.
Absolutely amazing. And you were saying that this can be adjusted acoustically
The acoustic can be adjusted. It's absolutely glorious to. I mean, I did enjoy recording this piece to send to you two at home, but I mean, it just makes it so much easier to play when one does have a bit of space.
And it's just wonderful for us to hear this music in this resonance. So, we've run out of time, but huge thanks and congratulations to Matt Kaner for the Swift and the Kestrel. What a beautiful addition to the clarinet repertoire. And to Mark Vanderweal for that searing performance. Just fantastic. Thank you, and congratulations both. And thank you lot at home for being here today and for listening. It is just so important for us knowing that you're out there supporting us. Thank you very, very much for tuning in. So, join us for the next World Premiere Wednesday, which is going to be on the 21st of April. And this is going to feature a new short work by Lisa Ilian, premiered live online by Hugh Davis on solo electric guitar. So, look forward to seeing you then. And in the meantime, thank you and goodbye from all of us at King's Place, London.